Welcome to the Renaissance Spirit.
Rome, the year 29 AD. My breath is shallow, my body frail, but my mind sharp as ever. The Senate murmurs about my legacy. My enemies whisper of poison and intrigue, and history. History will write what it pleases. But I, Livia Drusilla, wife of Augustus, empress in all but name, will not allow myself to be defined by rumors and envy. Before my time in this world ends, I must speak to you, to posterity, to those who will judge me without knowing me. I have lived in the shadows of the greatest men of Rome, yet I was never merely an ornament to their glory. I was a force, a strategist, a guardian of order. Now I will tell you the truth of my life, my reign, and the empire I shaped. I was born in 58 BC, into the distinguished Claudian family, a lineage older than Rome itself. We were aristocrats of the highest order, powerful, but in times of unrest, power is never secure. My father, Marcus Livius Drusus Claudianus, taught me from an early age that survival required not just noble birth, but cunning, foresight, and an unshakable will. My mother, a woman of discipline, taught me grace and the art of quiet control lessons I would later use to bend emperors to my will. Education was the privilege of patrician daughters, but my hunger for knowledge was not common among women of my time. I absorbed philosophy, history, and the rhetoric of the great orators. I studied the laws that bound Rome together, the art of persuasion that unraveled its leaders, and the nature of men who would rule the world. I learned to read not just texts, but people, their ambitions, their weaknesses, their fears. But childhood is fleeting, and the future often arrives uninvited. My first marriage to Tiberius Claudius Nero was one of politics, not passion. I was barely a woman, but already the tides of Rome's power struggle pulled me into its current. It was during this time that fate introduced me to the man who would change my life. Octavian, the future Augustus, the future ruler of the known world. What I saw in him was more than ambition, it was destiny. And he saw in me something far greater than a wife. He saw a partner, a mind equal to his own. But that, dear friend, is a tale for another time. The year was 39 BC. Rome, still licking its wounds from civil war, was a cauldron of shifting allegiances. The young and ruthless Octavian had already begun carving his name into history. My husband, Tiberius Claudius Nero, found himself on the wrong side of the struggle, fighting for Mark Antony. And so, fate played its hand. I first met Octavian not as a supplicant, but as a woman who saw a path to the future. Our first encounter was charged not with romance, but with an understanding. He had the power, and I had the knowledge to wield it. We spoke of Rome, of order, of destiny. There, in the quiet corners of a city in turmoil, we forged a pact that would shape the empire itself. But alliances must be sealed. Divorce in those days was not uncommon among the elite. So when Octavian demanded that I leave my husband and marry him, I did not hesitate. Rome's future depended on it. Some called it scandalous, a betrayal of convention, but I knew better. This was not a love story. It was the weaving of a new dynasty. As his wife, I was no mere consort. While Augustus ruled Rome, I ruled the palace, the whispers of the court, the succession. With quiet authority, I guided the empire's most powerful man, steering him away from chaos and into the arms of legacy. I was the architect of his stability, the unseen force behind the Pax Romana. But power, even shared, does not come without enemies. The Senate distrusted my influence. Rome's noble families resented my hand in affairs of state, and whispers began whispers that I was more than a wife, that I was a queen in all but name. And they were right. I had set my sights not only on ruling alongside Augustus, but on ensuring that my bloodline would one day sit upon the throne. And that, dear friend, is where the true battle for Rome began. The year 14 AD, the world trembled. Augustus was dead. The empire was left in my hands. Not that many noticed at first. Rome, as ever, was a city of men who had grown accustomed to their supremacy. But to underestimate me was their mistake. Augustus had left behind a solid foundation, but the empire needed more than just stability. It needed a vision, a direction, a protector. And I was that protector. In his final years, Augustus had already relied on me heavily. My political savvy, my control over the court, and my ability to manipulate the Senate were all crucial in preserving his legacy. But my true reign began after his death. I was not an empress in name only. The rumors of my power had spread like wildfire. The Senate may have seen me as a mere widow, but I knew better. I had outlived many of my rivals, including the likes of the jealous Agrippina. I had held Rome together through crises, from the assassination of key leaders to the factionalism that threatened to tear the empire apart. The empire was still in flux, but under my watch it would never falter. I knew the strength of Augustus's reforms, but I also saw their limits. Unlike Augustus, who always played the role of a unifier, I embraced the darker arts of power. Where Augustus sought consensus, I sought loyalty, control, and, when necessary, ruthless precision. I was the spider weaving her web in the shadows of the imperial palace, ensuring that Rome's future would always be shaped by my hand. Many would compare me to Augustus, my careful political maneuvering, my ability to suppress dissent, and my relentless pursuit of order, but I was more than a mere shadow of my husband. Where he had built the empire, I ensured its survival. Where he had dreamed of Rome's expansion, I solidified its core. Where he had sought peace, I defended it with an iron will. Yet I knew all too well that the machinations of power often come at a steep price. The death of my son, the beloved Drusus, and the plotting of Tiberius, my own flesh and blood, weighed heavily on my heart. My legacy was as much about sacrifice as it was about triumph. And even now, in the final years of my life, I must confront the question that looms over all rulers. Was it worth it? But that question, dear friend, is one I leave for the end of this tale, for all will be revealed in due time. The year was 29 AD, and my strength waned. The empire had been left to the hands of others, those who thought themselves more capable than I. My health, which had once been a pillar of vitality, now betrayed me. Augustus had been gone for over a decade, and my time, it seemed, was nearing its end. I had lived a life filled with victories and shadows, triumphs and betrayals. The power I had so carefully crafted was now slipping through my fingers, just as the empire's power had slipped from Augustus's grasp when he was my age. Though I had maintained my hold over Rome, it was no longer the same empire. Rome was beginning to fracture, with factions vying for control. Yet I had long since accepted that this empire, this legacy, would not be mine to control forever. On the day of my death, I passed in peace, surrounded by my children and grandsons. I left behind a world that had been shaped by my hands, and though some would write me out of the history books, others would know the truth. Rome was my creation, as much as it was Augustus's. My legacy was not that of a ruler who sought glory. No, I was no conqueror. I was a master of the invisible forces that bind empires together. The Pax Romana, the stability that defined Augustus's reign, was as much my work as his. Yet I had ensured that my family, my bloodline, would dominate Rome for generations to come. My son Tiberius would take the throne, and from there, the Julio-Claudian dynasty would continue. But I was more than a mother to an emperor. I was a guardian of Rome's soul. My influence was hidden, but essential. Through my diplomatic finesse, my control over the court, and my ability to shape the succession, I crafted an empire that would last for centuries. In the end, was my reign worth it? The legacy I left behind? I ask this not with regret, but with the clarity of someone who has lived through both glory and sacrifice. Power is a double-edged sword. It affords one the ability to shape the world, but it also requires one to make sacrifices that echo through time. I believed in equality, in the need for order, and in the preservation of Roman law. Liberty, it is a concept I respected, but the truth is, liberty often needs the hand of a ruler to guide it. Otherwise, chaos reigns. Democracy? Perhaps. But I do not believe that every voice in the Senate truly understood the meaning of liberty. What Rome needed, what the world needed was structure, and through structure, we would find true freedom. I acted as a steward of the empire, not just of its people but of its ideals. I protected Rome from destruction, sometimes at the cost of my own peace. History will not always be kind to me, but in the end, it is not history's judgment that matters. It is the legacy I leave behind in the hearts of those who knew the truth, that Rome flourished under my hand, even when my name was not always spoken aloud. Rome is not simply a city or a dynasty. It is an idea, an enduring vision of law, order, and strength. My reign, for all its shadows, was a chapter in that enduring story. Was it worth it? I believe, as I lie here at the end of my days, it was. Rome endured, and so did I. Thank you for taking the time to explore the life of one of Rome's most powerful and misunderstood figures. My journey, as you've seen, is not one of conventional glory, but one of quiet, unyielding strength and careful power. If you have found my story compelling, I invite you to continue your journey of discovery with the Renaissance Spirit channel. Our channel is dedicated to the pursuit of a just, equitable, and humane world, exploring topics ranging from history to personal development, politics, culture, and social justice. Through deep dives into ancient Rome and other fascinating subjects, we uncover the parallels between the past and our modern world. The Renaissance spirit is more than a philosophy. It is a way of living, thinking, and growing. The Renaissance era itself ushered in an age of reason, a pursuit of knowledge that was lost to time, and yet ever so relevant today. In embracing truth, knowledge, and compassion, we elevate not just ourselves but humanity as a whole. The Renaissance spirit invites you to take part in this journey of learning, questioning, and bettering ourselves and the world we inhabit. If you have enjoyed this video, I encourage you to subscribe, turn on notifications, and share with others. Explore more of our videos, and let me know in the comments what you've learned and what topics you'd like to explore next. Remember, history has not died. It lives within us all. Viva Renaissance Spiritus!